The March Madness selection show is only 2 hours away, so we're going to be doing a 2025 NBA mock draft pre-March Madness. Sorry I've been gone for a bit, but because teams, or more specifically players, stocks rise and fall during March Madness, we're going to be doing a mock draft before March Madness, which is this one, and one after March Madness, just to see how things shake up a little bit. We always use a draft lottery simulation just to see, or just to, gauge different parity of the NBA draft order, because it's not fun to have to draft the same guys for the same team every single mock draft. So, let's see who gets the first overall pick. Who is going to win the Cooper Flag sweepstakes? If the Sixers do not end up getting a top pick that I'm pretty sure, or the Sixers fall out of the top 6, then the pick goes to the Thunder, which did happen at pick number 8, so that's something to note. But the Miami Heat jumped from 11 to 1 to get the first overall pick in the NBA draft. That was surprising. The Brooklyn Nets are at 2, could potentially add a Dylan Harper or an Ace Bailey. The Raptors are at 3. Interesting to see what they could do there. But yeah, with the Miami Heat jumping all the way up to pick number 1, the Jazz fall to 5, the Hornets fall to 6, the Pelicans drop to 7, the Sixers lose their pick, it goes to the Thunder, and it's at 8. This is definitely an interesting draft order. Let's see what we end up doing. So with the first overall pick, the Miami Heat are going to be able to select, obviously, Cooper Flag out of Duke. Yeah, I didn't expect to be drafting Cooper Flag to Duke, or Cooper Flag to the Miami Heat with the first overall pick, but yeah, it's the draft lottery. Anything could happen. And with the Miami Heat getting Cooper Flag, they can kind of reset, not really restart, but kind of just reset this team's franchise direction. Right now, we have basically 2 number options in Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo to be our 1A scorer. Both Cooper Flag being here, with us being able to put him next to a Bam, next to a Kel'el Ware for the future, I think that this team has a whole new direction. I like this pick a lot. Cooper Flag is in talks to be the National Player of the Year as a freshman, let alone Freshman of the Year. And after number 1 pick to the Miami Heat, didn't expect to make this one. The Brooklyn Nets get the second overall pick, and they're going to be taking Dylan Harper here out of Rutgers. Yes, Cooper Flag, the first overall pick, that's set in stone. Number 2, I think, is all but set as well. I think Dylan Harper will be the second overall pick. If there's a team that has a point guard, like maybe I guess the Hornets would probably just take Dylan Harper to play him off ball anyway. So I think Dylan Harper is more the second overall pick, basically lock at this point. An elite season this year at Rutgers. Sucks that team couldn't make March Madness, because I think seeing him and Ace Bailey against the top talent in the world would be very fun to watch in a tournament setting. But at number 2 to the Brooklyn Nets, they get their new franchise point guard, and they can continue to rebuild. And yeah, Dylan Harper is a great start to that. The Raptors have the third overall pick, and usually it is Ace Bailey at pick number 3, but for specifically the Raptors, I think I'm going to end up leaning a VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor. I think that the third overall pick is most likely Bailey, but we could see VJ Edgecombe maybe get there, Kasper Siakushonis, Trey Johnson. We'll see what happens with a Common Malawach or Derek Queen during March Madness. Who knows? They could even jump to the top 3. But yeah, VJ Edgecombe is one of the best perimeter defenders in this draft class. He's also one of the best athletes in this draft class as well. If the three-point jump shot stays consistent at the next level, he's able to defend like one of the best players in the NBA. He's going to be worth this third overall pick. I don't think they should pick an Ace Bailey here for the Raptors specifically, because we do have some similar type of guys in obviously, Scotty Barnes. He's not really a Ace Bailey-like type of player, but more specifically a Brandon Ingram, who kind of needs the ball in his hands to work. I think that Ace Bailey does as well. VJ Edgecombe, though, he can really work off the ball as maybe more of a role player. So I like him at pick number 3. If he can give them 3-and-D, high capability, then I like it a lot for the Toronto Raptors. That's going to make the Washington Wizards pick at number 4 that much easier. It's going to be Ace Bailey out of Rutgers, getting them their 1A score for the future. Not too much I can say about Ace Bailey. He's one of the best shot creators in this draft class, probably the best shot creator in this draft class. Does shoot some questionable shots sometimes, but when he's on, he can give you 30. When he's off, he might go 1 for 9, 2 for 14, something crazy like that. But Ace Bailey, with his upside as a 1A scorer in the NBA, the Wizards would be willing to take that at pick number 4. Not a bad consolation prize for the 4th overall pick. The Jazz are at pick number 5. Usually, or I guess at the beginning of the season, I would have probably mocked a Kasper Siakushonis or Yegor Demon, but Isaiah Collier has been a really sneaky good rookie this season, especially his playmaking. He leads all rookies in assists per game. He's been able to kind of control this Jazz's offense. I know they're officially the worst team in the league, but you like to see a rookie take a step like that. For that reason, let's go get a guy that can play off of him. I'm going to go Trey Johnson out of Texas. He's been one of the best scorers in college basketball this season. Also, just like Ace Bailey, one of the best shot creators in this draft class. But with him being, I guess, 4 inches shorter, that kind of would give the edge for Ace over Trey. But Trey Johnson, great shooter, great working in the mid-range, does need to work at potentially driving downhill and to be more of a consistent defender. But I think getting another scorer for this Utah Jazz team, potentially moving on from a Lauri Markkanen to make Trey Johnson your number one guy, I like it. We're going to have him play next to Isaiah Collier, and yeah, he should be cool for the Jazz to be a nice scorer for them for the future. At number 6, we have the Charlotte Hornets. I see Kasper Siakis here, and I guess you can make the case for him at pick number 6 just because he could play potentially next to a LaMelo Ball, or if LaMelo gets hurt, which happens a lot, he could be that team's point guard. But I'm going to go Con Knipple here out of Duke. In the last 3 games with Cooper, or last 2 games with Cooper Flag being hurt, Knipple has really stepped up to be this Duke's number one, or this team number one scorer. He's one of the best shooters in the country. In the little sample size we got recently, he's been able to put the ball on the floor. We know what Con Knipple brings. I guess this team would probably really like to add a VJ Edgecombe, potentially obviously Cooper Flag or Dylan Harper. But at pick number 6, I like getting Con Knipple still for the Charlotte Hornets team. Play it next to LaMelo Ball, play next to Brandon Miller, and be this team's long-term shooting guard. I could see the Pelicans go in a couple different directions here at pick number 7. I like maybe adding an Austin Newell to add to that big depth right now because they definitely need it. Kamen Malawach could potentially be that team's long-term center. We do have Yves Missi, but if there's a better prospect available, I would not expect them to pass on that. But I'm going to give them Kasper Siakis here out of Illinois. I guess when you look at this team's roster or depth chart right now, you might not say they need another point guard, but CJ McCollum is getting old. DeJounte Murray is coming off of an ACL tear. They need point guard play for next season. I think Kasper Siakis can bring that, and maybe when they get more healthy, he can be a really solid ball handler off the bench. I like it a lot at pick number 7. Siakis has great size at 6'6", great lead guard abilities, does need to work on potentially his defense a little bit, and overall just being a solid true point guard at the next level. And I think he can be that, though. So I'm going to have him go 7 to the New Orleans Pelicans to potentially get them their long-term starting point guard. At pick 8, we're going to have the OKC Thunder, another team that I could see going a lot of different directions. They could add the big talent in Derek Queen. They could also maybe go a Yegor Demon. They could go a Kamen Malawach. But I think this team really needs to add another ball handler off the bench. Right now, you kind of have J-Dub playing that backup point guard type of role. AJ Mitchell, when he's back healthy, could be an option as well. But I do like adding Jeremiah Fears to this team as a really hard-nosed, downhill scorer for the squad. Is a really great slasher, one of the best slashers in college basketball. And I think for this Thunder team to, get some more ball handling off the bench, Jeremiah Fears can be that. One of the best freshmen in college basketball this year. I'm excited to see how he does in March Madness because this Oklahoma team should be locked in at this point. At number 9, we're going to have the Portland Trail Blazers. I think overall, when you look at the best prospect left on the board right now, it's probably maybe a Kamen Malawach or a Derek Queen. But for the Blazers' future, what I think they could do, I think adding Austin Newell could be the right pick. Donovan Clingan is your long-term center. We know that. But if Austin Newell is able to have a jump shot and he shows that during pre-draft workouts, I would not put it past the Portland Trail Blazers to draft him at pick number 9. He can be next to Donovan Clingan. He could also come off the bench, give you good backup big minutes. But I like the pick at number 9 to the Blazers, giving them some more versatility in that front court for the future because we want to get rid of guys like DeAndre Ayton, like Robert Williams, and overall, Austin Newell is a really good replacement. The Chicago Bulls have the 10th overall pick, and one of the most exciting prospects to watch this season has been Derek Queen out of Maryland. He's a really interesting player to watch because he's only about 6'9", 6'10", so maybe you not think he is the true center height, but he's able to put that ball on the floor. He's able to make a move in the open court, able to get to the rim, get to his spot, finish with both hands. He's also one of the most underrated passers, I think, for his position in this draft class. Some people call him the college basketball Nikola Jokic. I wouldn't go that far, but I think he has a really high ceiling, and if he's able to add the jump shot to his arsenal, he can maybe be a top 3, maybe even top 2 player in this draft class. I think Derek Queen is that good. Really fun to watch at Maryland. I think if he does show out during March Madness, he's going to be a lock for the top 10. The San Antonio Spurs are here at pick number 11. This is a team that can go in a lot of different directions as well. We could add Yegor Demon to be this team's long-term backup point guard behind De'Aaron Fox. Kamen Malawach, who I think at pick number 11 would be great value. Can be his team's backup center next to Victor Wembanyama, or maybe you can even play them together. Who knows? And honestly, I'm kind of talking myself into that because Malawach at pick number 10 or at pick 11 is kind of falling down the board just a little bit. I'm going to take him to the San Antonio Spurs. Is he going to be your team's long-term center? Probably not because we have Victor Wembanyama, but if there's a scenario where we move Vic to the 4 and we play these two together, I think we can get a lot of production, especially defensively, out of that. But even then, Common coming off the bench could be really solid. This team's backup center right now is Jeremy Shohan, who's 6'8". They have obviously Charles Bassey, who's injured right now, but is also solid when he's in. But I think he's definitely more of a third string center in the NBA. And then you have Sandro Mamukelashvili, who's a power forward. He's a floor stretcher. He's a shooter. So getting Malawach at 11, playing next to Wemby, playing behind Wemby, either way, that's a really solid defensive center for the San Antonio Spurs. At pick 12, we're going to have the Houston Rockets. I like the idea of adding them some more shooting in Liam McNeely. McNeely has definitely been a bit, not going to say fell down the draft boards, but a lot more inconsistent down the stretch for UConn. UConn lost in the semifinals for the Big East against Creighton. At the game was not fun to watch. But yeah, McNeely, at his highest upside, he's going to be a really good floor stretcher for you. Can put the ball on the floor, draw a foul. He's been able to show that at UConn this year. I'd say, relatively, he's had a really big role for this Huskies team. Could potentially, if this Huskies team is to make a run, it would be because Liam McNeely is able to show out. I think he's the best at creating a shot on this Huskies team, which is kind of crazy to say because him and himself is not a great shot creator. But at 12, he's going to be a role player for this Rockets team and help them build for the future to get a playoff spot. Obviously, they're going to get one this year, but they want to consistently be at that position. And I think adding another floor stretcher, guy that can shoot the ball, can help them at pick 12. We have the Dallas Mavericks at 13, and how Nico Harrison has built this team. I would expect them to go NBA ready right away, and that's going to be your Sheer Fleming out of St. Joe's. One of the most athletic players in this draft class, best defenders, really solid shooter as well. He's going to fit right in to this Dallas Mavericks team, play his role, and be a really solid player in this rotation right away. The Hawks are here at pick number 14. I could see them maybe go center if we're looking to move on from a Clint Capella. Could that be Thomas Sorber, Danny Wolf? Who knows? But I'm actually going to go point guard here in Jace Richardson out of Michigan State. I don't know whether or not we move off of Trae Young in the offseason. I think even if we don't, Richardson can be a really solid backup guard for them, can create his own shot, is really good off the dribble and having touch inside the paint. One of the best shooters, in my opinion, in this draft class as well. I think even though his game is definitely a bit different from his dad, he's going to make a big impact at the NBA level. Jace Richardson at 14 to the Atlanta Hawks, giving them some more guard depth because right now does not look like Kobe Buffkin is working out. At pick 15, we're going to have the Orlando Magic. The number one thing that this team needs is shooting, so I'm going to look at potentially a Will Riley here. Also could look at a Isaiah Evans out of Duke, who has been really fun to watch when he comes in. But I'm going to go Will Riley out of Illinois. He's shown to be more than just a shooter. He's had a really rocky season, or a relatively rocky season, or at least to begin the year. But as of recent, he's shown to have great touch inside the paint, be able to get to a spot in the mid-range, and also, like we know he could do the best, is stretch that floor and hit down a three-point shot. Illinois should be probably around a 6 or maybe a 7 seed in this year's tournament. I think if Will Riley can make a big impact on that team, we could see him rise up to potentially be a lottery type of guy in this year's draft class. At pick 16, we're going to have the San Antonio Spurs from the Atlanta Hawks trade, and I'm going to give them Yegor Demon out of BYU. I know when we draft him, he's going to come in, be a backup point guard right away, but I think that's okay. De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle is our future backcourt. We just hope everyone stays healthy and Yegor Demon can come off the bench and be a really solid playmaker for the San Antonio Spurs team. Imagine a backup lineup of Yegor Demon and Common Malawach, pick and rolls, throwing lobs. That'd be pretty fun to watch. I like Demon here at 16 to the San Antonio Spurs. I think at pick 17, the Minnesota Timberwolves can look to add potentially another guard just because Mike Conley's play is decreasing and he's obviously a lot older. I would like to see potentially maybe a Nolan Traore. Could also see a Boogie Fland who's potentially coming back for March Madness, which should be really fun to watch. Could also maybe see them add some more, big depth or I guess wing. And maybe a Nick Clifford who's getting his Colorado State Rams into March Madness with a win over Who did they beat in that conference championship game? Was it Utah State? Was it SDSU? It was something. But Colorado State is going to be in the field. Could also see them take a NBA ready guy like Colin Murray Boyles. But I'm going to have them end up taking a point guard in Nolan Traore. I think the number one thing that this team needs is to continue to get younger, get guys that can help them right away. I think Traore and Rob Dillingham as a potential backup or point guard rotation for the future, I would like that a lot. So give me Traore at 17 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. We know the OKC Thunder like to pick guys that can help them win right away when they're on the board. And I think in this scenario, with Colin Murray Boyles being on the board at pick number 18, the Thunder can use a guy like him. Chet Holmgren is sort of injury prone at this point in his career, so if we need another bigger body down there, Colin Murray Boyles can be that. He's a great switchable defender. He's able to score really well in the post, and if he adds that jump shot, he could be one of the best players in this draft class. I just don't think he's ever going to get that jump shot, which is tough to see. At pick 19, we're going to have the Indiana Pacers. The one thing that this team needs right now is more big depth. We have a guy like Thomas Bryant who's getting a lot of minutes right now, which isn't terrible, but we could definitely find a higher value player there. Miles Turner's on the last year of his contract. Isaiah Jackson is out for the season. So there's a lot of questionable holes on that team's big depth right now. I think we could fill that up with a Thomas Sorber. He's another guy that is coming off an injury, though, at Georgetown. He's missed the rest of the season. But if he's 100% healthy, going into pre-draft workouts, into summer league, into training camp, he's going to be a guy you can rely on to give you really solid production at that 5 spot. He's 6'10". He moves really well. Not as good as a guy like Derek Queen, but he's not just a center who has rocks for his feet, can't move, can only block shots. He could spread out. He can hit a mid-range jump shot as well. And at 6'10", 255, I think he'd be a really nice addition to the front court for the Indiana Pacers. We'll see what happens to Miles Turner this offseason. Is he a Pacer? Does he move? I think either way, we should add some more depth there. Give me Thomas Sorber. At pick 20, we have the Utah Jazz. It's another team that I could see going a couple different directions, but I like potentially adding another guard to this team and a Ben Saroff, not being this team's long-term point guard, but maybe a backup, or maybe adding a center. We've heard a lot of, or I guess earlier this year, we've heard a lot of speculation on whether or not this team wants to keep Walker Kessler, but if they don't, there's guys like Danny Wolf on the board, guys like Maxime Reynaud on the board, Joan Beranger, out of France is on the board. He's been really fun to watch in what I've seen for him so far this year. But I'm going to give them guard. I'm going to give them Ben Saroff to be potentially a backup for the future. I think Saroff has had his ups and downs this year at Roshua Farm with Noah Essengay, but I think at 20, getting some more point guard depth would help this team a lot. At 21, we have the Brooklyn Nets. This is a team that has pick number 21, pick number 26, and number 27. They can add a lot of young talent, and I think at 21, just so he doesn't come off the board with their next pick, I'm going to give them Isaiah Evans out of Duke. I really like this pick for the Nets because I think he's a guy that can come in and get minutes right away. Coming off the bench, being able to give them high volume 3-point shooting. I think if Isaiah Evans stayed another year at Duke and was this team's 1A scorer next year with guys like a Cameron Boozer, of course, he's coming to Duke as well. That could be really fun to watch. But I'm going to have him come to the draft, come out of Duke, and be the number 21 pick. I think if he does stay in college, though, he would raise his stock a lot. Great volume shooter. He's a really nice spark plug off the bench for the Blue Devils. And at 21 for the Nets, you should be really nice or feel really good that Isaiah Evans is still on the board because I think he has really high potential. At pick 22, we have the Miami Heat. I think when you look at this team's roster overall, what they could potentially add, obviously having Cooper Flag with the first overall pick is a no-brainer, but Terry Rozier at this point in his career is not a positive NBA player. He might even be gambling on himself. Literally and physically. Is that the saying? I don't know. But yeah, we could end up adding another young piece to this team in the point guard realm, like a Boogie Fland, like a LeBaron Philon, even potentially like where's he at? Where's my guy at? My favorite player in this year's college basketball season, Walter Clayton Jr. out of Florida, which is kind of crazy to say he could be a first rounder, but I would not put it past the Miami Heat. And you know what? I'm kind of talking myself into the Walter Clayton Jr. pick at number 48. He's been my favorite college basketball player this year for Florida. He's led that team to the number 1 seed, obviously after beating Tennessee today in the SEC championship. Last year, he was looked at maybe a late second round prospect. He was not a good defender. He was kind of a pure scorer, but now adding the defensive aspect to his game, being a really solid playmaker, being able to shoot, get to a spot in the mid range as well. I like it a lot for the Miami Heat at pick number 22. They're looking for a Terry Rozier replacement. And remember, this Heat team is not afraid to pick older guys to help them win right away. Walter Clayton Jr. and Cooper Flag in this draft class, you kind of pick two of the top three college basketball players in the world right now. At pick 23, we're going to have the Atlanta Hawks. We gave them Jace Richardson with their first pick, and how this Hawks team has drafted over time. Shout out Landry Fields, shout out Kyle Korver, because I think those are the guys that make most of the draft decisions. I'm going to give them Noah Essengay. We've seen them pick raw wings that are kind of skinny but have long arms, can shoot somewhat consistently, and give them really solid defense. I'm thinking Noah Essengay with this pick, Zachary Risache last year, and even guys like DeAndre Ayton, AJ Griffin. Who else? I think there was one more guy that's can't really get off the top of my head. But this team is not afraid to pick lanky wings. And right now, let's go ahead and give them Noah Essengay out of France because he really fits that frame. The Magic here at pick number 24, we gave them Will Riley to add some shooting with their first pick at 15. I think at 24, they could look to add potentially some more big depth. I don't think that this team should be prioritizing a Wendell Carter or maybe even a Mo Wagner or Goga Batadze for the future, So I think they should add another big man because I would like to get rid of Wendell Carter at this point. Just don't think he's that great of a player. I think I'm going to end up giving them I'm going to give them Danny Wolf out of Michigan here. He's a bit turnover prone, but he's a really solid passer for his size. He's a 7-footer that can also play guard, which shows his versatility a lot. And I like it for the Magic here just to give them some more meat down there. At pick 26, we're going to have the Washington Wizards. We can look to add potentially another wing into Hugo Gonzalez, Drake Powell, Carter Bryant, or Nick Clifford, but I think that this team can use some more point guard depth. We have Jordan Poole. Is he a long-term guy? Probably not. Marcus Smart is someone we're going to lose or not free. I don't think he's a free agent this year, but it's someone we're going to try to trade off of this offseason. Same thing with Malcolm Brogdon. So I'm going to give them Boogie Fland out of Arkansas. Like I said earlier, he's coming back from his injury this year, so we get to see him play in March Madness. And I think at 25, what he's able to bring in terms of playmaking at 5.7 assists per game, it's a really solid pick for the Washington Wizards. At 26, we have the Brooklyn Nets. They have back-to-back picks at 26 and 27, one from the Rockets, one from the Knicks. So we get to make these picks kind of quick. We could look to add some more guard, even though we did pick Harper and Evans already. So maybe we look away from a guy like Ian Jackson. Could get some more size, though. I like the idea of adding a Noah Penda, give them some nice defense at the forward position. But I think first things first, let's take Hugo Gonzalez, guy that was not able to play too much at Real Madrid this year just because how stacked that team was. But he comes in as a project play, can spend some time down there with the Long Island Nets, but can also give us some nice defense off the bench as well at pick number 26. At 27, I'm going to take them Carter Bryant here out of Arizona. Another really low floor, not really low, but relatively low floor, but really high ceiling. At 6'8", we'll see what he can do with the ball in his hands in terms of his jump shot. But defensively, we know he has the capabilities. And I think it's a really solid pick for the Nets at 27, getting a nice overseas player that has high potential in Hugo Gonzalez and a guy over here in the States in Carter Bryant. I think overall, when you look at that team's draft class, we'll look at the end, but a Dylan Harper, Isaiah Evans, Hugo Gonzalez, and Carter Bryant, that's a really solid draft class. Would like them to add potentially another center, but with the guys off the board, I couldn't really do it. At 28, we're going to have the Boston Celtics. I think they kind of like the guys that are on the board right now because they're looking for a guy that can help them win right away. That can be potentially a JT Toppin, who's been one of the best college basketball players this season. That could be an Ian Jackson, who could be a nice spark plug off the bench. But I'm going to give them Nick Clifford out of Colorado State. I talked about how much I like his game. He's able to shoot the three ball. He's able to get to the basket. Really solid defender as well. And at 6'6", he's averaging 9.8 rebounds. You know you're going to be able to get a guy that is hustling, that is able to get dirty in the paint, and overall a really solid player for the Celtics at 28. That could potentially be looked at as steal in the next coming year. At pick 29, we have the Los Angeles Clippers. It's another team that I could see potentially add some more big depth right now. I like the idea of potentially looking to get a JT Toppin out of Texas Tech or getting a guy like Maxime Reynaud or Janai Broom out of Auburn. And I think at 29, let's give respect So the best player in college basketball this season in Janai Broom. Sometimes he's able to stretch the floor and give you that aspect of his game. But in terms of just getting buckets in the paint, having nice touch around the rim, being a solid playmaker as well as over 3 assists tonight, Janai Broom can give you really solid production. I think at 29, it's a really solid pick for the Los Angeles Clippers. At pick 30, we have the Phoenix Suns from the Cleveland Cavaliers. I believe that's the trade they made with the Jazz earlier this year in compensating their first first round pick from, what was that, 2029 for 3 late first round picks. But at 30 for the Suns, I could see them add some high potential wing play in the Drake Powell, maybe some nice scoring off the bench in an Ian Jackson. But I'm actually going to give them a Yaxel Lendeberg out of UAB. Now, this guy is one of the most fun players and electric players in college basketball this season. He had a 30-20 game in the AAC tournament. Also gave you 8 assists and 0 turnovers. He's a really good college basketball player, one of the best college basketball players in the nation. Um, I do not know who's winning right now between Memphis and UAB. I guess I could just check the score live. I think the game might have been over, but hopefully UAB won to potentially get into March Madness. And I think this is from a minute ago. Let's see right now. Did UAB beat? They're down 10 right now. Not good. I'm cheering for the Dragons to go ahead and steal a bid. But Lendeberg, one of the best players in college basketball, great rebounder, great energy guy, 6'9", can spread the floor as well. I like it for the Suns a lot. So that leaves this first round for my 2025 pre-March Madness NBA mock draft. Guys like Drake Powell, Ian Jackson, JT Toppin are still on the board, so it could be really useful for teams in the second round. But looking at this first round, guys that maybe run a little bit higher or lower than usual, I guess dropping Ace Bailey to 4 might be a bit controversial, but I like it. Let's see who else. Fears at 8 is a pick I like a lot. Diego Redemon, I think at pick 16 is the lowest I've had him. Will Riley, I'm having him jump right back up to the 15th overall pick. Jace Richardson is getting lottery talks as well. And then after that, nothing too. Or I guess Walter Clayton at pick 22. Maybe Heat fans won't like it. Maybe they will. I'd like to see their opinion on potentially taking a experienced guard in the first round. But even at the end of the draft, I liked being able to take guys like Nick Clifford, like Janai Broom, like Yaxel Lendeberg, who are older players but can help NBA teams right away. This is the mock draft. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to be making another one at the end of March Madness. But make sure to be on the lookout for my 2025 March Madness bracket prediction, because tomorrow it will be posted. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.